Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon. Welcome to the webinar for Iatf 16949 audit non-conformities obtained during the third-party audits in 2023. Today, I'm here with Paul Hardiman, and we both would like to learn a little bit who is with us. So it would be really very nice if you would take this opportunity to write on the chat, in the comments, your name, location. Would be great to learn a little bit about you. We have first LinkedIn user. We have Iatf. Who else we have? We have Sarah. Right, also, from where are you from? We are very curious. What are the locations? Or where do you live?
Is it morning? Is it afternoon? Is it evening?
Exactly. Gary, UK. Roger, I know Roger. Great. Let me just tell you that we are streaming today to 3 platforms: YouTube, LinkedIn, and Facebook. And between the platforms might be a 10-second shift with the broadcasting, so we may not react accordingly in time for your questions, because I hope you will also use this opportunity to ask the questions for us. We'll try to do our best to answer your questions. However, we know, all of us, that we have a lot of content for you to discuss, so it might not be difficult to say everything today related to your questions. There are a lot of people saying hello around the world. I'm trying to display them, but you're amazing.
They're too quick.
Yes.
I think I've seen about 30 countries so far, so that's a good start. Yeah.
Great. I also
some people in their morning, some people in their
yes,
afternoon, some people in their evening.
Yes, there is Spain, Turkey. Yes, I saw also Poland. Great. We had
Indonesia,
Austria.
Morocco. Yeah.
Great. So many people. Good. What time? India evening. Oh, great that you spent your afternoon with us. Okay. I'm very happy that you are with us today. Just pay attention that you may leave your questions on the chat. However, we may not answer directly to all these questions. Okay, just leave them, and later at the end we will try to go through them. Okay, what we prepared for today for you together with Paul. And so, first of all, we are here because Iatf published in January the statistics. Yes, they closed 2023, and now we can discuss about this. What were the major and minor top 10 non-conformities obtained during the third-party audits around the world. So, at the very beginning, just let me present your hosts. My name is Agata Lewkowska. I'm the founder of QualityWise. Together with me is Paul Hardiman. Paul is the founder of Quality Partner. Together, we are originated in automotive industry. We are coping with quality management system. Paul have extremely great experience, 35 years. Paul, great. I have only 17, but together we'll do our best to tell you as much as possible about the requirements. Yes. Okay. Let's start with this. That we can see the positive trend in Iatf certification. Of course, according to maybe Pareto rules, Asia Pacific is the biggest contributor, which we can see. However, in other regions, we can also see that we have quite great numbers of the certification. Yes, let's remember that only here in the statistics we have those countries here indicated which have more than 500 Iatf certificates only. Okay, Paul, would you like to add something here?
Only I'm sad because the UK has dropped off this now, because I think the UK has got 498 certificates. But I guess my feeling is that this is still growing, obviously not as quick as it was growing before. I feel we will reach 100,000 certified sites this year.
Uh-huh.
That will not include the remote support functions. That will
Yeah.
only be the manufacturing sites.
Mm-hmm. Good. Great. Okay. Let's start to the most important topic. Let's start with the major nonconformities. Here are the official statistics from the IATF website. However, before we will start, Paul, I believe that it would be really very good to remember when we are classifying the nonconformity major and when minor. Maybe I will give you the voice.
Yeah, so there are definitions in the IATF scheme which are different to ISO 9001. So a major nonconformity is a total breakdown of a system, yeah, or it is the potential shipment of non-conforming product. So we may find a situation, it's only one situation, but if it hadn't been found, then there could be the shipment of non-conforming product. So it is a risk-based decision. Yeah, approximately 1 in 20 ATF non-conformities are major. About 5% of all global non-conformities are major. Maybe the ATF view is there should be more. Yeah, that sometimes auditors might be shy to raise major nonconformities. Um, but yeah, there are nonconformities raised. So the key definition is a complete breakdown of the system or a situation that could result in the potential shipment of non-conforming product. And that's in section 10 of the IATF rules. A
Rules.
minor is more a single observed lapse. So auditors have to make that decision when they find any problem. They have to look at the risk in the situation, look at the evidence they've collected, and make that decision.
Mm-hmm. Great. Okay. So, my proposal is that we'll briefly go one by one this nonconformity. Just maybe, we need to speed up
Yeah.
if you would like to go through all of them. However, let's start. Let's discuss about the problem solving. And maybe problem solving is actually very connected to the nonconformity. So already we can discuss about the second major nonconformity. The problem solving is really a high contributor. Before we'll start talking about the potential root causes and the requirements itself, here, Paul, please confirm if I am wrong that always when we have from the minor nonconformities, which we did not apply a right problem solving, we can have a major nonconformity during the verification on the other audit. That's why no wonder that here we have so many nonconformities noticed, and the problem solving is top one year by year, isn't it?
Yeah, so those numbers I think are somewhat distorted by that. So that is 17% of the global major nonconformities relate to either problem solving or
Yeah.
nonconformity and corrective action. And I allude to the term buy one, get one free. Yeah. So if a minor nonconformity from a previous audit has been verified remotely by the auditor, on the next audit, they have to add time to do the verification activity. If it's found at that verification activity that the nonconformity has not been effectively addressed, so the organization may have said, this is what we've done, but we get to site and find that it hasn't been done effectively, then that minor nonconformity gets escalated to a major, and there's a new major raised against the lack of effectiveness of corrective action. So I think most auditors would probably put that against 10.2.1, but I think some also get put against 10.2.3, which is why I suggest we group them together from a discussion. That's one reason. I think the other reason is people sometimes think of these requirements only being applicable for customer complaints, but they're not. The problem solving could apply to customer problems, internal problems, internal audit nonconformities, supplier nonconformities. Yeah, so we have to apply the same methodology i.e. any containment. The key bit is the root cause, including the methodology. A lot of
Mm-hmm.
people pluck root causes out of the air, and you say, well, how did you get there? Where's the structured root cause analysis? That is a reason, I think, that we get major nonconformities, because the auditor is finding a breakdown in the robustness of the problem-solving process.
Mm-hmm. Yes, exactly. I really like what you've said. This is not only customer related problems. Yes.
Yeah,
Let's remember what is written in the first sentence, for instance, on the 10.2.1. Yes. When
yeah,
the non-conformity occurs, also arising from the customer complaints. Yes. As
yeah, yeah,
additional information. Yes. So we need to actually work with other non-conformities. Yes. What we have in our
absolutely. Yeah,
evaluation
yeah,
and the root cause analysis. This is
yeah.
also connected to very with the problem solving methods
Yeah, yeah,
applied itself. Yes.
and one other point is about not just implementing the corrective action, looking at the horizontal deployment of that corrective action, but the final bit is the organization verifying themselves that the corrective
Mm-hmm.
action has been implemented effectively. It's not the third-party auditor's job to do that. It's the organization job to verify that the corrective action is effective. The CB audit is looking at the whole problem solving, but the organization has to check the effectiveness of the actions that they've implemented and keep
Mm-hmm.
evidence of that.
Okay. Let's discuss the third one, manufacturing process design output. Here are a lot of requirements because there are a lot of deliverables which needs to be done. Yes, 14 elements, I believe.
A
Um,
lot. Yeah, yeah,
yeah. So here we also need to fulfill a lot of requirements. So it might be also easy sometimes to get the nonconformity with not meeting some of them. Paul, maybe let's pay attention here, especially to maybe such things which needs to be as a result of the design, manufacturing process design output, like special characteristics, because
yeah.
here it is combined with another clause A333, which we will not see here. However, special characteristics are not only those which are given to us by the customer. Yes, we also
Yeah.
have some responsibilities. And from my experiences during my audits, I see that here is a weak point. What would you say here?
No, no, 100% agree. Many organizations I go to say, we've looked at the customer specifications, there are no special characteristics, therefore it's not applicable. And I say, oh,
Mm-hmm,
no, 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 no. You have to define your process for identification of special characteristics. It doesn't mean you have to have them, but it
mm-hmm,
means you have to have been through a process and you need defined criteria for what is an organization identified special characteristic. And I think a lot of organizations, if they were really audited for that, would not have a very robust process. So I think it
mm-hmm,
is perfectly valid. That may be more relevant against 8.3.3.3, which is a dedicated requirement to special characteristics, which we see in the top 10 of minor nonconformities.
mm-hmm,
In my view, this manufacturing process design output is more about companies, when they introduce a new product, I think too often say that product's the same as all the other products. We don't need to update any of the documentation. Yeah, we all it is, it's a slightly different size or it's a different tool. They don't necessarily review the PFMEA, the control plan, the work instructions. So I think that is why this is in the top 10, because auditors find problems in the new product introduction process. Yeah, they find those problems in the new product introduction process. And this is the place that they would put them. They would put them under manufacturing process design output as a non-conformity. For example, if the FMEA was not complete, if there was issues with the control plan, the
mm-hmm.
auditor for a new product would post a non-conformity against this requirement.
Mm-hmm. Good. Also, let's not forget that do not take copy paste previous project control plans,
Oh, that
FMEA.
never
Yes.
happens. Yeah.
I'm
No,
struggling
I
this
think, yeah,
during the
yeah,
audit.
yeah. So no, I think there's numerous problems in there. Another one is maintenance plans. That organizations introduce new equipment, but they forget to develop the plan for the maintenance of them. So again, that's a requirement. If we're introducing new equipment, we do need robust maintenance plans. That's one of the bullet points under this requirement.
Hmm. Let's jump into control plan, the most important quality document, I would say. It's really interesting. I would say this is a low-hanging fruit. Control plan, I can predict easily today that next year will also be here. Maybe not on the fourth place, but somewhere allocated. What here?
Well, I think you're right. It's low hanging fruit. And maybe this is a good opportunity to say these are the top 10 major nonconformities, but are these the top 10 biggest problems in the automotive supply chain? And I don't
Hmm.
think they are. For example, where's the nonconformities on section 5 about management commitment? Auditors would much rather raise a nonconformity against the control plan than they would challenging the management are not committed or don't understand what their role is in implementing IATF and maintaining IATF. So I think auditors, they're under pressure to write nonconformities. They're always going to be looking for low-hanging fruit. You couldn't get a lower hanging fruit than control plan. I guarantee I could go into 93,500 IATF certified companies and find a problem with control plan.
Yes.
Yeah. So if auditors dig deep enough, and unfortunately, I think a lot of people see the control plan is irrelevant. They see it as a document that they have to create a new product introduction. All the controls get put into the relevant manufacturing control systems. Then why do we need a control plan? I think is some people's view. And to some degree, I agree with people. It's going to be interesting to see what the new AIAG control plan manual
Mm-hmm.
throws up here. Remember that AIG manual will not be an IETF 16949 requirement. Yeah, that
Hmm.
control plan manual will only be required, yeah, if it is a customer specific requirement. And I've just seen one of the points flash up in the chat, which is very relevant. People say, well, what is the minimum content of a control plan? And the answer is in Annex A. And Annex
Yeah.
A is mandatory. Annex A is not guidance. So if we only saw a control plan with product control, it would be a nonconformity linked to Annex A, because Annex A says a control plan should include product control and process control. Just using that
Hmm.
as an example. Yeah. So Annex A is mandatory. What the control plan looks like might depend on customer specifics, but any one of the 93,500 companies have to have a control plan that meets the Annex A requirements. Yeah.
Hmm.
Uh,
Let's remember also that we can find the control plan requirements as mentioned by Paul in APQP, where you can also find a template which actually meets the requirements from Annex A. However, let's remember that on the German market, we may not use APQP according to
yeah.
AAG, so
Yeah.
so it might be different. Yes, that's why we have this Appendix A that at least the half of the
Absolutely.
market can use the
Yeah.
requirements. So
Yeah. And to Toyota, their format of control plan looks different, and that's okay as long as it meets the Annex A requirements. Some people think APQP is an IETF requirement. I've been doing a 4-day new auditor course this week for third-party auditors, and surprisingly, not just them, but other auditors think the blue books are IETF books. They're
oh.
not. They are not. IETF don't have any books.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, AIG do, VDA do, SMMT does, AMFIA has, VIAV have, but there are no IETF reference manuals. So
Okay.
the new manuals will not be mandatory unless specified by the customer.
Mhm. Let's also remember that control plan needs to be prepared for different phases in the product life
Yeah,
cycle. Yes.
yeah,
Also, if you are doing prototypes, you have to have control plan. This
yeah.
also came from the prototypes requirements itself. However, let's remember, yes, and
No,
it's also in
absolutely.
the in the
Yeah.
appendix.
Yeah, and family
Okay,
control plans. And the
family.
final thing is the latest sanction interpretation even more allows the control plan to be a signpost document. It doesn't have to contain all the product control and process control parameters. They might be in a manufacturing execution system. If you try to create a control plan for a semiconductor company, it would be huge. Yeah. They just refer to their manufacturing execution system as the level of control. And that's been allowed now even more by the latest sanction interpretation. Yeah, on the annex.
Mm-hmm. Okay, measurement system analysis. Another interesting, the fifth one. I would say, from my experiences in the audit, it's a black box. I don't know. It's about the competences that that we don't know how to do this measurement system analysis, or we do not understand the requirement that we need to have measurement system analysis for each type of the equipment identified in the control plan. Paul, what do you think about this?
Yeah, this is definitely the most misunderstood of all the core tools. And every new auditor class I do, when I say at the beginning of the course, is there anything that you would like to focus on? Nearly everyone says MSA. They come in with really not understanding too much about it. Now, today we covered that in the training, and I always say the first question as an auditor you should ask is, how have you determined what are the different types of measurement system you've specified on the control plan? Because if the auditor doesn't understand from the organization what are the different types of measuring systems, then they don't know the next question. Well, okay, what MSA have you done for each of the different types? And the FAQ makes it clear that the expectation isn't to do MSA on each instrument. As you said, it's each type. So
Each
if they
type.
have 25 0 to 25 millimeter micrometers, all being used in the same work environment by the same skill level people measuring similar products, we don't have to do a study on all 25 micrometers. But the first thing is the organization has to go through that process of grouping the measurement systems into types. That could be variable measurement systems, it could be attribute measurement systems, it could be destructive, it could be non-destructive, it could be product control, it could be process control. But the
Mm-hmm.
first thing is, yeah, determining what are the types. And I don't think a lot of organizations have done that. So the auditor will pick something off the control plan and say, show me the MSA, and they won't be able to show it. And then they pick another one, they won't be able to show it. And that,
Mm-hmm.
I think, then cumulatively can give evidence of a lack of understanding of measurement system analysis. And a lot of auditors think MSA equals gauge R&R, and it's far,
Mm-hmm.
far more than that. Yeah, we don't even have to do gauge R&R study. It could be bias, linearity, stability, attribute agreement. So this is, I think, auditors don't understand it. Many organizations don't understand it, but it's really surprising how this has gone up the list over the
Mm-hmm.
last few years, partly because third-party auditors have been given more training on auditing MSA. So I think that's
Mm-hmm.
one of the reasons it's going up the list.
Okay, let's here also remember about the customer requirements. Yes, customer specific requirements. Maybe firstly, which method shall we use? We know that we have two references manual, at least the mostly commonly used, like VDA, QMC, VDA5, and
Yeah,
AIAG.
yeah,
But there are also others. Let's remember
yeah,
about the Annex B in Iatf, where we have the bibliography,
yeah.
and we can find for other methods. And also, let's remember that IATF is not saying what are the approval criteria. Yes.
Absolutely. Yeah,
So
yeah. That's where people go wrong with exam questions in IETF exams.
yeah.
Um, so a question might say, what is the acceptance criteria for an MSA study? And as soon as people see less than 10% gauge RR, they check it. And
Mhm.
I say, where does it say it in here? It doesn't. It says either you reference the customer reference manual
Yeah.
or the manual that the organization has elected to use. Same with
Mm-hmm.
process capability. You know, there's no process capability values in IATF. It's customer specific requirements. So
Mm-hmm.
if you're being audited and an auditor is trying to impose these, challenge them and say, that's not our criteria. That's not a customer
Uh-huh.
specific requirement. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Another one. We have monitoring. I'm sorry, control of products and service provision. So this is the clause which is coming from ISO 9001, and I will start with this. This is again a low-hanging fruit because this is a clause relevant to the manufacturing, I would say, processes, the environment in general. So actually, if we have a multiple, I don't want to use the word breakdown or let's say risks for not meeting the requirements on the shop floor when the process of manufacturing is ready to perform. Uh, we can actually have few multiple simple, maybe smaller requirements. However, if we see that we have a breakdown with environment, with infrastructure, with competences, validation, then this is a perfect point. Paul,
Yeah.
do you
Yeah.
have
I
similar
think this,
impression?
firstly, it's interesting to see that we have two ISO 9001 requirements in the top 10 of IATF. That's the first thing. And the
Mm-hmm.
second thing is, I think, as you say, this is a catch-all, that if auditors find multiple problems in production, individually they might all be minor non-conformities against different production requirements. But if the auditor thinks that actually manufacturing is not well controlled, I've found all these little problems, then I think what they will do is group that objective evidence together and post the major non-conformity against this ISO 9001 requirement, which talks
Mm-hmm.
about facilities, resources. Yeah.
Yeah, different aspects. So
So
it
yeah, I
may
think
also
that
be
I
another,
agree. I agree.
so another low-hanging fruit, actually. Or if the auditor is not experienced enough, would like to raise this non-conformity here, but I don't believe, I don't want to believe that the auditors
No, I don't.
are,
I don't think that's too low hanging. I think it's just a
yeah.
catch-all, the highest level of 8.5 that an
Uh-huh.
auditor can post a non-conformity. And remember, in CARA and the IETF database, an auditor can only put one requirement
Yes.
against each non-conformity.
Mm-hmm.
So
You can,
they
you
can't
cannot.
they can't say, well, it's 851 and 8511. They can't do that. They have to pick one.
Mm-hmm. Yes, for the same audit evidences, you can't have two different
No,
non-conformities. In
no,
fact,
no,
yes.
no.
Okay, another one. I like this one. Monitoring and measurement of manufacturing process. Yes. Interesting because here we are talking about firstly the implementation, the verification of the implemented tools like FMEA, like control plan, and also about strongly about the capability of the processes. Yes. And here I have the feeling that a lot of organizations is forgetting that once they declared during the project phase and then the process approval of the process and product that they declared to keeping some certain capabilities of their
Yeah,
processes. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, and this requirement very clearly says not only we have to achieve capability, we have to maintain capability as specified in the customer part
Yeah.
approval requirements. So this is a really, really important, but also a really big clause that actually has got a hell of a lot of content
Mhm.
and a lot of shells within it. Yeah. Now, on any training, I say we have a couple of requirements about control plan. We have 8511, and I think that's more about the document of the control plan, making sure that the
Yeah.
control plan reflects the current practice. So if we find any gaps in the control plan, we would use 8511. If we find that the control plan's okay, but it's not effectively implemented, I believe 9111 is a better requirement because
Mhm.
under one of the bullets in there, it says we shall implement the control plan. And if we
Mhm.
don't implement the control plan, I always recommend 9111 is the best fit requirement for that non-conformity. Yeah.
Mhm.
But you're also right in here. this is the statistics that are coming into here, yeah, about knowing whether a process is stable. And to be honest, a lot of people sometimes can't define what that means. Yeah, is the process stable, and is the process capable?
Capable.
Yeah, and some
What
people
is
mix
this?
them. Some people mix those up, and there's a lot of confusion in the supply chain about CPK and PPK. IATF does not say which indices to use. I go to
Yeah,
many companies and they say they're reporting CPK, but it's PPK, and vice versa. Yeah, because really
completely
the only difference is about the way that the standard deviation is
innovation.
calculated. So Ford, for example, now are more leaning to PPK, where we use the true standard deviation of a population. So I think this is probably just behind MSA in an area that there is a lot of lack of understanding, both in the auditor base, but also in the supply chain, particularly when you come down the supply chain. I think the lack of statistical knowledge, which is a different requirement, yeah, but is the root cause, I think, of why we find a lot of problems against 9111, that we don't have the right level of competency in the basics of statistics.
So
Yeah,
here, next to this, we have another clause, 9113, about the knowledge, yes, the
yeah,
basic concepts of the stability, capability, the consequences of over-adjustment must be understood and known
yeah,
by the people who are working with it, yes.
yeah, yeah,
We
yeah.
did not make
So
up this.
no, I think there's some opportunity for improvement in there. From an
Uh-huh.
education point of view, not just of the operators on the shop floor, but for example, some engineers who are
Yeah.
responsible for managing statistical data, they really don't understand some of the basics. It's assumed,
Mhm.
well, you've done an engineering degree, surely you know it.
Yeah.
But the organization should verify that competency and fill the gap if they're not competent. So
Exactly.
summarizing under 9111, I think there's a lot of issues in there.
Mhm.
Implementing the control plan is one, ensuring we have stable processes, capable processes, and if we have got an unstable or uncapable process, that there is good containment with a timed action plan, because that
Mhm.
is part of the requirement, including maybe 100% inspection, why we bring the process back to being stable and capable. So
Mhm.
yeah, a lot in there.
I have a question now on my head. Is it possible, the situation that in automotive we are not using the statistics? This is a tricky question.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, I think we have the 9112, which is sandwiched in between, which is
exactly.
the organization shall determine the appropriate use of statistical tools.
Mhm.
There is nothing in ITF saying you shall use SPC. The customer might, but there's nothing specific in ITF saying you shall use SPC. But I would challenge all organizations. Many just say, oh, yeah, we don't need to use SPC. Well, how have you come to that decision? And how are the people making those decisions competent to make the decision? Because, of course, you're going to say we don't need to use SPC if we don't understand it,
Mhm.
because we don't want to use it because we don't understand it. So I think that is a key point, that
Mhm.
no auditor can mandate SPC, but it's a very good tool if it's used properly to help understand the variation in a process, particularly related to special characteristics. And some customers will
Yeah.
mandate it for special characteristics.
Otherwise, we have 100% control.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
So the
yeah,
decision of the organization whether to pay 100% control or to apply
yeah,
predictive way of the control, yes,
yeah, yeah,
based on
yeah,
trends. Okay, another one, the top 8. I really like this contingency plans, but I know that this is difficult clause with a lot of requirements, bunch of requirements to meet over the, and no wonder that we have contingency plans year by year with this group of top 10 major nonconformities. Yes,
yeah,
firstly the situations defined. Secondly, the simulations. Yes, and what else? Sanction interpretations we have over the to be applied.
yeah. Yeah, I have badgered IETF because the way that they write the sanction interpretations, this sanction interpretation
Mhm.
against contingency plan has changed 3 or 4 times. And to understand what the final requirement is, you need a degree. I read it 10 times and it took me 10 times before I understood about what the final change requirement was, because there's lines struck out, there's lines in blue. It's really
Mhm.
difficult to work out what is the actual auditable requirement. But obviously, we've seen pandemics. Yeah.
Yes.
And again, this is low hanging fruit for auditors. If they find that their organization hasn't identified the SI, then they're not going to have anything in their contingency plan about pandemics. We've seen a lot more about cybersecurity, which has become a very, very big issue in the
Mhm.
supply chain. I think quite rightly, we see that in the contingency plan. But I always say, how do we know if a contingency plan is effective? One way is to look at delivery performance. And if you see examples of missed delivery, well, why? What's happened? Yeah, was it equipment breakdown? Was it somebody didn't turn up for work? Was it a supplier shortage? And how do we do a lessons learned on that and update contingency plan? Yeah.
Mhm.
I think the problem in the requirement is if you say you have to update it annually, what will people do? Annually. Management review. Yeah. You have to do it minimum
Mhm.
annually. What will people do? They'll fudge an annual review. Um, so I think ITF shoot themselves in the foot a little bit because people will do the minimum to scrape through. But actually, the contingency plan makes sense from a business point of view that if plan A fails, we have plan B and we
Mhm.
can keep the customer supplied. Yeah, if we get a key equipment breakdown, if we have a supplier shortage, if we have a labor shortage, if we have a cyber attack, we have mechanisms to keep the customer supplied. And we test those, we simulate those, we review those with a cross functional team. Um, but I think a lot of companies have got majors here because they haven't realized the changes in the SIs. For most people on this call, they'll think, well, of course, people know. I think there's a proportion of 93,000 companies who are oblivious to SIs.
Mhm.
Maybe the person who knew about them has left and nobody has picked up the baton. So they're there, but people need to know about them. They need to
Mhm.
subscribe on the ITF website to get updates.
Mhm.
Um, but I'm still amazed that a lot of companies I go to who are certified are very blind towards SIs.
Yeah.
Um,
We have really nice question from Roger.
oh,
Are there any requirements from contingency plans to include ISO 45001, ISO 50001, health and safety, and especially 50001 for environment? So
right.
here we will not find such requirements here
No,
for
not
this. Yes,
in ITF, but could
exactly.
be linked to customer specific requirements.
Mm,
Yeah,
yeah.
could be that customers, on top of requiring an organization to be certified to IETF, may have
Mm-hmm.
other requirements outside of the scope of quality management, but they expect their suppliers to identify. Um, and then, yeah, Hector,
Mm-hmm.
with the
Yeah.
simulation, um, we have to apply a degree of practicality. Yeah. To how simulations can work. What I've seen a lot of companies do is almost play scenarios. And it could be done in an audit situation that you say to the auditor, go and test how people will react in this situation. Okay, we've just
Mm-hmm.
had a phone call from our key raw material supplier to saying they've had a fire. What would we do? We've just had a cyber attack which has knocked out all our dispatch systems. What would we do? So it doesn't have to be physical simulation. Yeah, it can be where we test it by discussion. Um, so I think a lot of people do struggle with how are we going to test every aspect of the contingency plan, but it has to
Mm-hmm.
be risk based in what we prioritize on in doing the testing.
Exactly. And here in the question is especially all identified risks.
I
Yes,
don't think we can simulate everything. It has to be a risk-based decision about what are the biggest things that could impact a shipping product on time to the customer, and what would we do to mitigate those risks if they happen. Yeah.
or to
A
decide.
funny, yeah, sorry, I was just going to say a funny story
Yeah.
that a lot of
Yeah.
companies, I say, where's your contingency plan? Well, it's in
Mm-hmm.
our IT system. Hang on a minute. What happens if your cyber attack? Who's going to access it? You can't. Yeah. So I think that's why IETF added the requirement about people have to be trained how to react. It's no good sticking it in a document and sticking it in an electronic folder if people can't
Mm-hmm.
access it if the situation arises. So people have to have the competency of knowing how to react. So that was
Yeah.
something that got added through a sanction interpretation.
Paul, Hector is still writing, referring to these all
Yeah,
risks. He had a situation 2 of 5 risks were simulated, others not, and he obtained a non-conformity. Yes, because 100% of the risks should be simulated. From my
yeah,
experience,
yeah, yeah.
uh,
Sorry, after you.
um, yes, from my experiences, I see that you can plan it periodically. Yes, control plan needs to be updated at least annually. Yes,
Yeah, yeah,
so you can also do a planning when in which year you are following which risk to be audited, of course, based on the risk itself, how this is scored. Yes,
yeah,
Mm, so this is one of the solution how you could work with these simulations. This is not
yeah.
easy topic, of course, but has to be done. Yeah.
No, and also it's not an easy topic to appeal to the certification body if you don't agree with a non-conformity. Um,
Mhm.
yeah, I had a message on LinkedIn from somebody yesterday saying
Oh.
they got a non-conformity because there was a specific word missing out of a quality policy. According to the auditor, that word had to be in the policy. They had an integrated policy between quality, health and safety, and the environment. And the auditor was
Mhm.
saying, I'm raising a non-conformity because it's not got that word in the standard. Um,
Mhm.
and I said to the person, did you think about appealing that non-conformity?
Mhm.
Because what they had to do is split quality out of their integrated policy, which is crazy. Yeah, they
Mhm.
did that to satisfy the auditor. So I think we have to be brave that if we do not agree with an auditor's non-conformity, every certification body, all of the 40 certification bodies have to have an appeal mechanism. So
Mhm.
don't just roll over and say, oh, well, the auditor's right. If you don't agree and you don't think there's anything in here that you can tie it back to, then appeal it. Yeah.
Mhm. Okay. In the meanwhile, I was really displaying very nice comments from you, how to deal with this, because I see that this simulations is really a hot topic.
Yeah, it's a hot topic. Maybe that's a topic in itself that we should have a follow-up webinar on.
Yeah. Okay. Let's remember, contingency plan must be reviewed at least annually, and top management must be involved in this activity. Yes, they are also a part. They are taking part in this because they are also a side which is
Absolutely.
escalating. Yes, to the customer.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, ninth one, total productive maintenance. Oh gosh, honestly, this is not my favorite one. This is really male area. Paul, for you.
Yeah. Yeah, you don't see too many female maintenance managers, but there, yeah.
I met
Um,
recently. Yes, it was really exceptional.
yeah. But no, I think the heading to start with, the heading for this requirement
Yeah,
is wrong. The requirement is not total productive maintenance, certainly in the eyes of the Japanese, where we have
understand.
autonomous maintenance, plan maintenance, we have the pillar approach to TPM. So this is very misleading, I think, that an organization doesn't have to have a fully implemented total productive maintenance system to be able to meet the IETF requirement. But obviously, a lot of companies will use a combination of autonomous maintenance driven by the operators and planned maintenance delivered by the maintenance team. And I think that is good practice, but we can't mandate that in IETF. It's up to the organization how they structure their maintenance activity. But whatever they construct, we have to make sure it's effective. And I think there's some good paper-based maintenance systems around. What I used to do as an auditor is not spend time looking at paper, but spend time looking at the machines. Are the machines being kept in optimum condition? Yeah.
Mhm.
And I've seen lots of paper saying, yeah, everything's fine. And you go down to the machine and there's bits hanging off. Yeah, they're filthy dirty, um, not being kept in optimum condition. And say, well, how can that be? Your checklist said everything was fine and the machine's falling apart. So what auditors should focus on here is an implemented maintenance system, yeah, which could include obviously the breakdown maintenance, the planned maintenance, the predictive maintenance. They've made a little bit woolly, yeah, in the requirement. So it's not really mandated anymore. But I think there's a lot of good predictive maintenance techniques. So I think the reason this is in the major, a lot of that may be resourcing as well. That are the management giving enough resources to implement the maintenance plans? And often on audits, I think we see a breakdown of the maintenance process because of a lack of resources. And they get dragged into fixing breakdowns and they never do any of the planned maintenance, which is going to result in a major non-conformity.
Mhm. Okay. The last one, customer satisfaction. Okay. Uh, Customer satisfaction is, I would say, essential because this is the outcome of all our activities, what we are doing in quality management system and all our efforts, which leads our customer to cooperate with us simply. So let's remember that we need to concentrate on monitoring constantly from internal, external sources. We need to have a certain KPIs, really certain KPIs, at least mandatory ones indicated in this clause. But also, let's remember that we need to do some actions when we are not meeting the customer satisfaction. Paul, I'm giving you the voice to say more about this additional time of not meeting the customer specific, not customer specific,
Yeah.
customer satisfaction during the third party audits, because this is really
Yeah.
interesting topic.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think there's a couple of points here that in the Iatf rules, which are currently going through a process of updating, but in rules 5th edition, if an auditor finds a situation where there's a customer performance target, the customer performance target isn't being met, and there is no robust corrective action, they don't have any choice. That is a major non-conformity. Yeah. If there's no action plan to address a customer target where the target isn't being met, the rules say it's taken out of your hand, Mr. Auditor or Mrs. Auditor. That is a major non-conformity. So that's one thing. Second thing is auditors are mandated as part of audit planning to look at customer scorecards. Look at it from the eyes of the customer. What does the customer think of the supplier? Yeah. And then focus the audit trails based upon what they've seen. Is there quality performance, delivery performance, disruptions, yard holds, warranty issues? And the auditor has to prioritize the audit trails based around those areas of the high risk. Yeah. There is increasing emphasis now on customer performance. We saw the sanction interpretation that if there's poor performance against the customer scorecards, the auditor is mandated to add audit time to investigate why. Why is there a gap between the customer expectations and the supplier performance? Yeah. If
Mhm.
the customer continues to get problems, particularly the IETF OEM members, they will raise a performance complaint on the relevant certification body. And the certification
Mhm.
body will be mandated to investigate that complaint. Could be a special audit, and it could result in the loss of that supplier's certificate. So a lot
Mhm.
more focus, I think, yeah, on the management of customer expectations, the monitoring of customer satisfaction. Obviously, that can be between the OEM and the first tier. If you're first tier, second, it can apply down the supply chain. But it's interesting that has, up in the top 10 because of this more focus, I think, on achieving the customer expectations.
There is nice comment from Roger. Would be even better if all of the customers you ask to score your performance, more than 20% responded.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think if you get 20%, you've done very well, Roger. I think generally, if you send out questionnaires, the response rate would be a lot less than that. Obviously, when we go up the supply chain, more have customer scorecards where they formally communicate the performance. But when you get lower down the supply chain, it becomes increasingly difficult to get feedback from the customer. And you can't force them. What you can show is you're attempting to get the feedback. Yeah.
Great. Okay, these were top 10 major. My proposal now is just we'll briefly display the top 10 minor. Of course, we'll now not go through all of them. And actually, we will not discuss them, in fact, because we are out of time, to spend some time on the questions that are still on the chat. But let's have a look just briefly. What are the 10 minor nonconformities? Yes. So you can see contingency plan is coming back. Yes. Manufacturing process design outputs the same. Control plan, the same. Total productive maintenance. But error proofing, oh, this is great, really. Sometimes organizations are forgetting about putting them in the certain documentation like control plan, FMEA, yes.
Or verify
or even
them.
apply.
Yeah.
Another standard work, operator instructions and visual standards. Okay, it is as a top 10. Verification of job setups, this special characteristics. MSA is coming back, and control of production and service provision is the same. So as you can see, only
6
few are new. Only few are new.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, 4 new ones. And again, where is Section 5? Where are some of the Section 9 about management review, internal audits? Yeah, these are all the low. Maybe I'm being cynical, but a lot of these, I think, are low-hanging fruit for auditors. On average, I think there's globally about 4 non-conformities per audit, average. And if I'm an auditor and I'm being told the global average is 4 per audit, what pressure does that put on me? Yeah, if I go a couple of audits without raising any non-conformities, it's going to start pushing me below that average. So I think people will tend to look for low-hanging fruit, and some of these clauses are ideal opportunities rather than some of the more challenging requirements that may be bigger problems. Yeah. Internal audit. How many of the 93,000 companies have really good, robust internal audit processes? I'm not sure. 93,000. Yeah. So where's internal audit on here? Where's management review? How many companies truly have a management review process? Not the minutes of a meeting that the quality manager's written, but how many have a true management review process? But it's not on the top 10 of either, because again, maybe auditors are shy that would really challenge management. And who's paying the CB? The organization. So who do we want to keep happy? Yeah. It's a difficult balance. Yeah. Maybe I'm getting too cynical in my old age, but yeah.
Okay. So let me just display a few questions, interesting questions, which I found on the chat. Okay, and we'll try to help. Okay, with understanding. Hector, when PPAP phase and docs are shared with customer gives okay to documentation, how is it possible later Iatf auditor assess and see? Oh, I'm not sure if I understand everything very well.
I think I understand. So the organization pull all the documentation together in some form of part approval, process flow, FMEA, control plan, MSA studies, etc. They submit to the customer. The customer says, yeah, start sending me production parts. Then the auditor looks at that package and says, your FMEA is not very good. Bang, bang, bang. Here's the issues. The MSA study, you've used the wrong parts. So I think that's what
Mhm.
Hector's saying. How can the auditor override the customer? I think in this case, I would support the auditor, that the auditor's job is to verify compliance to the IATF requirements. The customer's not going to go through every single document. In some cases, they probably don't look at any of them, to be honest. They just sign the warrant. So I don't think we can
Mhm.
rely on just because the customer's accepted it, it automatically meets the IATF requirements. And if the auditor finds problems, then I think they have the right to raise it as a non-conformity.
Paul, but going through this logic, the customer has the last word, even if he is not applying the right rules. For instance, like MSA, there should be a procedure 3 because it's automated process,
Yeah,
but they are doing procedure 2. Yes, and sending to the customer is accepting this. What
yeah.
then? What the auditor
Right.
should do?
Yeah. But this came up in the very early stages of the IATF scheme, that customers cannot take away any IATF requirement. They can
Mhm.
interpret them, they can add to them, but no customer, for example, if Tota came along and said, don't worry about FMEAs, we don't need them. Don't worry about MSA, we don't need them. No customer can take away, they can only interpret or add. So, at the end of the day, the auditor has the job to audit against the IATF requirements and any customer specific requirements. And if those
Mhm.
requirements are not being met, then it's a non-conformity. We can't just rely on the customer, because some of the people, to be honest, reviewing those PPAPs probably don't know what they're doing. Yeah, they
Mhm.
don't know all the technical detail. They'll see the warrant, they'll have a quick flick through. It looks okay, they'll sign it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that would be,
Okay.
my view on that.
Mhm. Another question. What are the key responsibilities of, oh, interesting question, PSCR in a manufacturing plant that does not design product or tool, or is it mandatory for such role to exist? Mm, okay, you're supplying to Volkswagen, definitely, at least, and BMW. Mercedes might happen. Okay, so let me answer this question. You are not responsible for designing. However, in manufacturing plant, there are also some situations that you have to assure the product safety and meeting the statutory and regulatory requirements. In other words, if you are asking certainly what PSCR should do in his position, definitely. Maybe the easiest example, the complaint is coming, yes, to our organization. PSCR must take part in the first step when we define the problem, uh, whether this refers to meeting the statutory and regulatory requirements or safety issues. Yes, this is the role. It doesn't have to be a person who will deep dive into root cause analysis, then implementing the actions. No, these are other further steps. However, at the very beginning, such person should help with putting the special attention to this product, yes, or even with FMEA working, it would be for me. This is obvious. This PSCR should be a person in the team for FMEA if I'm working with the product safety and statutory and regulatory requirements, because such person also should vote for this product safety keeping. Yes. So these are the examples. Paul, do you have something else?
No, I agree. Just that the
Mm-hmm.
PSCR is not, again, an ITF requirement. That would be
Mm-hmm.
specified as a customer-specific requirement. Product
Mm-hmm.
safety is a ITF requirement, but having that role is not mandated by ITF.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Another interesting questions. Please define family of instruments. Paul?
That really is the organization to make that decision. I always use the example. Okay, an organization has got 25 0 to 25 millimeter micrometers, all being used in the same environment by the same skill level people, measuring the same type of material. But they've also got 100 to 150 millimeter micrometer that is used to measure a much bigger component, different material. There's absolutely no way that they can be grouped into the same type. The 100 to 150 has a stand because you can't hold it in one hand. Your hand's not big enough. So you need a stand for it, which is part of the measurement system. You've got more opportunity of skewing the part within the jaws. So the organization has to go through a logical sequence of thinking and group into the families. And all I would look for as an auditor is that that has got some logic. Yeah. I don't think there's any
Mhm.
magic formula, but it's going down the evaluation measurement technique column in the control plan, listing all the different types of measurement systems, and then saying, is it possible to group any of those, whether they be variable or whether they be attribute? There might be 100 different situations where you're using visual inspection, but they might be
Mhm.
visually inspecting different attributes of the product that need different skills, they need different lighting. So we can't just say visual inspection is visual inspection. There's got to be a logic as to maybe there's different types of visual inspection. So we've got to put visual inspection into groups and then do studies for each of those groups.
We have also FIQ related to this in IATF, how
Yeah,
to define
yeah.
the family of instruments.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah, no. So it clearly says you don't have to do it on each instrument in the
exactly.
FAQ. I
Mm-hmm.
saw one interesting question. Hector's been very active.
Yeah.
Just before we finish about IETF, when are we going to see a new version? Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
I
so,
didn't went.
yeah, no, I think it's a really good way to finish. Maybe that
Okay.
obviously the IETF focus this year is the launch of Rule 6 edition. So this
Mm-hmm.
is a transition year from Rules 5 to Rule 6, and that's a challenge. A lot of work, yeah, for the CBs, a lot of work for people helping train and develop the auditors in the 6th edition. So I don't think the revision of ITF is the top of the pile, but we all know, whether we like it or not, ISO 9001 is starting the revision process. And maybe 2026 we'll see a new ISO 9000 standard. Maybe we don't have to be a rocket science to say that maybe then what IETF will do is try and simultaneously reissue IETF with any changes in the ISO 9001, maybe 2026, but that is not a definitive plan.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm just speculating that because ISO 9001 is changing and we have a whole stack of SIs, that at some
Yeah.
stage they need to do that revision.
Mm-hmm. I see we have still a lot of questions which are coming, and actually
People are
we
still
are.
awake, which is good. Yeah.
Yes, we have a lady from Canada. Good
Yeah.
morning.
Yeah. Regina, a good friend of
Really?
mine. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. Oh, great. You know each other. So let's maybe answer two more questions, okay? And then we will respect your time. So let me pick up maybe some interesting one. We have a question about MSA. It was one. 1 second. Let me figure it out. Neil strongly recommended attribute kappa MSA studies for visual inspection, especially as a tool to improve
Absolutely.
quality performance. Let's remember that for attribute data, you don't have to only use kappa,
Yeah.
cross-table
Yeah.
method, hold. In fact,
Yeah.
you have also, for instance, signal detection method, which can also be a very nice method for the usage. Okay, so let's remember there are not only kappa. What else? MSA on complaints statistics.
Yeah.
Sometimes when you need to prove with your
Yeah.
customer the measuring system, let's remember a measuring system is not only the device which is measuring. Yeah,
It's the whole system. Yeah. Yeah.
exactly.
I think that's definitely relevant. If you've sent product to the customer, which you've got measurement data that shows in spec, and the customer saying it's out of spec, the first thing we should start with, is
Yeah.
it our measurement system or is it the customer? And often it could be the customer doesn't understand the variation in their measurement process,
Mm-hmm.
because maybe some OEMs don't do MSA. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Florian is asking about the KPIs which are relevant for maintenance. I remember, Florian, you showed this, you wrote this question when we talked about total productive maintenance. There are no KPIs, certain KPIs indicated and required by
No.
IATF. Yeah.
There has to be a KPI, but IETF said it could be OEE, MTBF,
Mhm.
MTTR, or other maintenance metrics.
As
Yeah,
examples.
people use OEE, and I think it's a great measure if it's used correctly, and the availability is a good indication of the maintenance effectiveness, but there's no mandatory KPIs.
There was one comment also when we discussed MSA. I don't remember what was exactly said, but one person is disagree for method 2. It needs to be done on a physical part. Did we say that it
I
is
don't
not
think I
done?
said it didn't. So
Exactly,
obviously
it has to be.
for gauge R&R, we do it on real parts.
Exactly.
For bias linearity stability, we do it on a known reference. And we can't do bias linearity stability if we don't know what the reference value is. So I don't think, if we said something wrong, I apologize, but I don't think we said anything that you wouldn't do an MSA study on real parts, particularly gauge R&R.
Okay. There are some questions also from Roger. Roger, you know my mail address. Maybe you can direct these questions directly, because we have also about the PSCR, yes, product safety safety issues. So I can answer you maybe later, not to spend more time.
Let's use the
Or
LinkedIn forum, yeah.
oh yes, or you may raise this question in the LinkedIn forum. Okay. So, guys, at the end, just let me remind you that on my QualityWise YouTube channel, you may find a video series which I did with Paul. It was in 2022, in fact, referring to non-conformities from 2021. But they are still almost the same, with one exception. So you can watch all the playlist with all single comments per each non-conformity to learn more for your organization, to help for your quality management system. Also, this what we did is in my ebook, which also refers to this video series with Paul. And as you can see, only one non-conformity connected to customer specific requirements is not anymore as a top major in 2023. So this is still relevant for you. Might be valuable. If you wish, you can download. Okay, Paul, thank you very much for joining me. And also thank you, dear audience, to be with us today. It was really a pleasure. Always nice to talk about Iatf, isn't it, Paul?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Even at 7 o'clock in the evening, I don't mind, yeah, because
Yes.
now I think everybody that's joined, I'm sure, is passionate about this, to try and make this work and to try and improve the supply chain. So thanks everybody
Exactly.
for attending. It's great to see so many familiar faces that have
Yes.
joined.
Thank you. You may come back to this on the QualityWise YouTube channel, to this recording, or on the LinkedIn profile, because this will be there for your usage. Thank you very much, and have a wonderful day, morning, afternoon, evening. See you next
Yeah,
time.
take care, everybody.
Bye.